1 week earlier. They tried to sing safety into the paperwork. Initial here for belongings, the admissions woman said, tapping a line with a pale pink nail. Phones go to the station for your peace of mind. For mine? I asked. For everyone's, she smiled, meaning mine last. My name is Agnes Whitford. I am 74, a widow, and an accountant by craft long enough to know when numbers are being asked to lie. They tried to sing safety into the paperwork. Initial here for belongings, the admissions woman said, tapping a line with a pale pink nail. Phones go to the station for your peace of mind. For mine? I asked. For everyone's, she smiled, meaning mine last. The intake folder was the weight of a casserole. Consents, notices, something called a safety hold, another page that murmured evaluate for capacity if indicated, and 2 unheaded sheets that drifted near the back, undated, asking for a temporary surrogate and family first contact. The boxes for my initials were small, but the arrows pointing to them were not. Before we begin, I said, I need copies of everything I sign. We can print them at discharge, she said. Discharge is not a time, I answered. It's a wish. I set my purse on the counter, opened a green ledger, and drew columns like rails. Date, time, name, position, request, response. Row 1, date, Monday. Time, 9:14 a.m. Name, Elena, admissions. Request, remove phone and keys. Response, refused, copies requested, ombudsman requested. Elena switched to the voice people keep for widows who won't perform gratitude. These are standard, she said. Show me the policy, I said. Please call the long-term care ombudsman. I did not look up when I spelled the word. I wanted her to see it already lived in my hand. A supervisor arrived. Then a nurse manager. Then someone from Risk, a clipboard with shoes. They were not unkind. Kindness is a tactic in rooms where signatures move faster than people. While they triangulated me, the ombudsman's office called back. Doreen's voice had the seasoned grain of someone who knows the difference between care and compliance. You keep your phone, she said. You keep your keys unless there's a documented risk and you agree. No capacity evaluation without notice, basis, and your participation. Would you like me to record this intake? Yes. Please note I requested your involvement before signing. Done. Do you have an elder law attorney? I will buy lunch. My primary care had ordered a 3-day rehab stay after 2 dizzy spells and a fall that frightened the cat more than me. A physical therapist arrived with a smile I believed. We walked, turned, reached. On the hallway whiteboard, someone wrote my first name in cheerful bubbles. I prefer letters that pay their taxes. Just after noon, I called the number pinned to my corkboard under, if the day surprises you. It led to Michael Hargrave, elder law. I don't need war, I told him. I need boundaries recognized as law. Those are my favorites, he said. Text me photos of every page. Don't sign anything appointing a surrogate unless you mean it. In Arizona, say supported decision-making (SDM). It's the least restrictive alternative. If guardianship is whispered, ask what less restrictive steps were tried, ask for the policy, and ask who benefits. I wrote SDM in the ledger like carving. He promised a simple template and told me to keep my phone. Arizona doesn't disappear a widow's rights because a facility finds it tidy, he said. By mid-afternoon, new forms sprouted, care preferences, contact family first, a highlighted line about property in staff-locked storage, and fall risk, high even though no one retested. We need to finish intake, Elena said, carrying a clipboard like a white flag. We proceeded with therapy, I said, pointing at the whiteboard steps. This is about control, not care. If we don't complete intake, our hands are tied. I like tied hands, I said. They can't reach my pockets. At 2:17 p.m. My son called, voice already deputized. Mom, they say you're being difficult. They just want to help. They can help by letting me read, I said. Why can't you be reasonable? I am being recorded, I answered. What? I'm keeping a log, I said. Not audio. Columns. He exhaled the way men exhale when paperwork starts to look like weather. We're worried. Then worry on paper, I said. I'll send you the ombudsman's number. I phoned my pharmacist. Any transfer requests? Funny you asked, she said. A supplier pinged us. Didn't sit right without your say-so. We held it. Please record. Patient refuses transfer without written consent. Done, she said. Our new tech keeps calling you Aggie. Is that okay? I can survive Aggie, I said. I cannot survive Ward. The word moved through me like a draft through a closed window. Ward of the court. My husband and I used to debate stubbornness, his loud, mine patient. He would have walked out. I would hold a lantern through the process until every hallway showed its label. At 4:05 p.m., a social worker named Karina sat at my small table by the window, pen hovering over boxes that wanted me to become smaller. We assess for safety, she said. Some residents benefit from temporary guardianship, just short-term, to stabilize. What is temporary here? I asked. Short-term, she repeated. Is that a number? A period of time, she said, writing something neat I couldn't read. If capacity is in question. According to whom? The team, she said, which is a word like we uniforms without names. I will sign nothing on capacity without notice, basis, and participation, I said. Please write that in the chart. Copy my attorney. She wrote. The pen made the small sound of a room becoming accountable. I prefer choosing supporters, I said, not being assigned a minder. We could set up a care circle, she offered. Less formal than guardianship. You choose who to consult. We'll put it in writing, I said, and felt the SDM letters warm the page. Before dinner, I asked admissions for the grievance policy. Elena brought a binder thick enough to anchor a small boat. I copied the steps into my ledger like a recipe. 1. Inform staff. 2. Submit written grievance. 3. Receive written response with reasons and appeal options. 4. Contact ombudsman and state agency if unresolved. Would you like the survey agency's number? She asked. Yes, I said, writing it down even though I already had it. By evening, Michael emailed 2 attachments, a 1-page SDM agreement and questions that changed the room. What less restrictive alternatives have you tried? What policy are you relying on? Please point to the statutory authority. What is the grievance/appeal process? Who benefits financially from each option? I printed both on the unit printer. A nurse glanced at the title. That sounds combative, she said. It sounds adult, I said. My daughter called it sunset. She enters conversations like a guest, shoes off, careful eyes. Mom, they say you're escalating, she said. I'm documenting, I said. Different word for refusing to disappear. What do you need? Tomorrow you'll sign beside me on an SDM agreement as a supporter. You won't decide for me, you'll consult with me. If anyone tells you I'm confused, ask, about what? Show me what she wrote. I can do that, she said, and I felt one hinge swing truer. That night a nurse brought medications I recognized and one I didn't. New? I asked. Physician adjusted based on observation, she said. Whose observation? The team. Please return it, I said. Until the physician speaks with me. She sighed the practice sigh of a long hallway. Then she put the pill back and charted. You're going to be a handful, she said. I am a person with hands, I answered. I keep them open unless someone fills them with what isn't mine. I slept lightly with keys under my pillow. Symbolism isn't always symbolic. Sometimes it's a working lock. At 2 I woke to a cart's soft roll and the oxygen concentrator's faithful wheeze next door. I heard my husband's hinge rule in my head, make it swing true. Don't let them sell you crooked as ergonomic. Morning opened the door with ordinary light and trays under lids that made everything taste like lids. Karina returned with a capacity screening baseline form. Helps us plan, she said. Plan care or plan guardianship. That's a separate process, she said. But it feeds here, I answered, touching the top margin. Record again. Decline until notice, basis, participation, attorney copied. She wrote slower this time. I asked for the resident rights poster. Elena pointed to a framed sheet near the lobby with print too small for eyes that actually live here. We also have copies, she said, looking for them. I handed her mine. Last night I had printed the federal summary and the state supplement. She smiled despite herself. At 10:15 I delivered 3 envelopes to the nurse's station, administrator, social services, risk, each stamped received with the red honesty of today's date. Title, Notice of Rights Assertion. 5 lines. 1. I retain my phone and keys. 2. I require copies before signature. 3. I decline capacity evaluation absent notice, basis, and participation. 4. I request implementation of a supported decision-making agreement. 5. I request ombudsman presence for any meeting on capacity or guardianship. By early afternoon, the air felt different. The hum of an engine throttled back. People still did their jobs, but the room had learned my name meant boundaries. Michael arrived with a laptop and a loosened tie. He asked for the policy on temporary surrogate, the guardianship referral procedure, and grievance timelines. He spoke in sentences calm enough to make administrators check the actual manual, not the version in their heads. We drafted my SDM agreement in language a tired printer could respect. Supporters, my daughter and my neighbor. Scope of support, medication questions, insurance calls, transport. Reserved decisions, finances, residence, daily living. Notice clause, any capacity concern triggers written notice to me and counsel. SDM must be offered and tested before anything more restrictive. I signed with square letters. My daughter signed as supporter, my neighbor signed, Michael notarized. Doreen, on speaker, said, document received. After they left, I walked the hall. A veteran lifted 2 fingers above a radio hidden in plain sight beneath a Bible-shaped cover. I returned the salute. A CNA asked if I needed the door. I've got it, I said, and did. At sunset, my son called again. You're making people nervous, he said. Informality is how big changes slide through without anyone signing, I said. I am insisting on receipts. What if you're wrong? Then I'll fix it with paper, I said. This country still pretends paper means something. I intend to take it at its word. I set the ledger on the bedside table, green cover like a small highway sign. Tomorrow someone will call a form routine and a tone compassion. I will ask for the policy and the statute. Someone will hint at temporary guardianship. I will ask, what less restrictive alternative have you tried? The question does not open a door. It makes the room notice there is one. The morning after the SDM signatures, the building remembered how to hum. Someone had lowered the volume on certainty. I made coffee from the visitor machine and wrote Tuesday at the top of a new page in my green ledger. Entry 1. Date Tuesday, 7:41 a.m. SDM copies delivered to admissions, nurse manager, social services, ombudsman file, and attorney. Exhibit map. IDs/insurance. B. Intake. C. Phone/meeting log. D. Bank alerts. E. Medical notes/PT. F. Witness statements. G. Certified mail PS 3811. H. Photos/audio. I. Formal notices/court. I wrote the letters like fence posts. The day could hang on them. At 8, Attorney Hargrave called. Today we take the air out of rumor, he said. Facility-wide notice. SDM in force. Capacity concerns must use the proper door. Notice, basis, participation. I'll also prep APS intake to log early pressure. Will that make them defensive? I asked. Defensive means the right nerve woke up, he said. We're documenting and offering a least restrictive alternative that is already working. Doreen, the ombudsman, arrived with folders and a thermos that read drink water, create less fire. Karina, the social worker, and Elena from admissions joined us. We took the small table under a desert print pretending it had never been hot. Yesterday you declined capacity screening without notice, basis, and participation, I said. Today I reiterate and request the facility test SDM before any more restrictive step, including temporary guardianship. Karina nodded. SDM can give consistency. Elena asked, who do we call if something changes? My supporters, I said, opening the agreement. Daughter for meds/insurance, neighbor for transport and practical help. They consult, I decide. Doreen folded the agreement to make the signatures shine. Let's surface policy, she said. What is your guardianship referral procedure? Karina fetched a binder labeled process. She read the paragraph on rare referrals when capacity is significantly impaired and no less restrictive alternative exists. Then please record, SDM exists and is in use, I said. Doreen wrote the sentence onto a form that seemed grateful for a verb. At 10, Elena mouthed my son's name. She set a portable handset on the table like an object that might explode or sing. Guardianship is standard for safety, he said. If it's temporary, what's the harm? Define temporary, I said. Define stable. Who decides? The team, he answered. The team that wants my phone at the station, I said. Come at 2 as a supporter. Read the agreement on the table. In the therapy gym, the veteran from the hall navigated cones. Your radio? I asked. In plain sight, he said, patting a Bible-shaped cover. The physical therapist adjusted my walker and predicted I could ditch it by Friday if I kept this temper in the numbers. Lunch plan. 1. Send formal notices. I. Certified. G. 2. Lock evidence in counsel's cloud. Print what counters resist. 3. Ask bank to flag new POAs/beneficiary changes. 4. Collect witness statements. F. 5. Keep asking questions that change rooms. I drafted 3 letters: Administrator, Social Services Director, Risk, titled Notice of Rights Assertion plus SDM in Force. 5 lines. 1. Phones/keys retained. 2. Copies before signature. 3. No capacity eval absent notice, basis, participation with counsel. 4. Test SDM and other less restrictive alternatives before any guardianship referral. 5. Ombudsman presence for any meeting recapacity/guardianship. Paragraph. Provide written policy/statutory authority for any deviation. I sealed them and wrote certified on each with a blue pen that always tells the truth. The mail carrier fitted green PS 3811 cards to the backs. Return receipts? He asked. Yes, I said. I'm gardening days. Exhibit G got its first numbers. I copied them slowly so they would behave. At 1:30, Ms. Patel, the bank manager, called. We can flag unusual requests, new POAs, beneficiary changes, joint owner attempts, and add an in-branch password phrase. Use a sentence, I said. Receipts change rooms. She chuckled and added, NO new POA without in-person verification plus attorney copied. She promised 90 days of history so I could examine the quilt for missing squares. At 2, my son and Jenna arrived. Michael joined by video, Doreen in person. Karina near the door as if the conversation might try to escape. We're here because we love you, Jenna began. Temporary guardianship is standard. Last resort in Arizona, Michael said. The law requires less restrictive alternatives first. Ms. Whitford has SDM. What alternatives have you tried? We call and show up, my son said. Love is not a program, I said. Alternatives have paper. Michael's proposal. Chart SDM. Create a care calendar with roles. Staff call supporters for consult. Decisions remain mine. Any capacity concern, notice, basis, participation with counsel. If those terms are unacceptable, cite policy and statute, he finished. Karina wrote, underlining words that seemed to glow. Jenna pivoted to finances, sliding printed Amazon orders across the table. 2 air purifiers? A backup generator. Smoke, I said. Last summer's fires. I balance ledgers when anxious. Finances remain exclusively Ms. Whitford's unless she chooses otherwise, Michael said. If there's a specific concern, list it. Jenna nodded, small, like someone learning to sit in a chair that doesn't shrink. Break at the window with Doreen. How are you? She asked. Steady enough to hold a pen, I said. That's steadier than many, she said. The chart will reflect SDM before sundown. My daughter arrived, read SDM aloud, and signed again as supporter. She turned to my son. We can help without taking, she said. He did not nod, but he did not leave. By late afternoon, Karina handed me the grievance policy and guardianship referral procedure, ink not shy. I highlighted dates and appeal windows, drew a deadline map, and taped it inside the ledger cover where habit lives. At 5, a team recommendation appeared on my medication list that I had not discussed with the physician. Bring the physician, I said. He arrived with the posture of a man who runs 4 conversations while standing still. We debated trade-offs and agreed to hold the change, document the discussion, and meet next morning. Thank you for behaving like a door with a knob, I said. I dislike sliding walls, he replied, surprised to find he meant it. Evening. The veteran tuned his radio to a game. A CNA coached a woman to stand with patience. I filed under proof of God. I copied I cleanly and added J joy, small and defensible. Next morning, with Michael and Doreen, I called APS. I described the early push to remove my phone/keys, unheaded forms, and talk of temporary guardianship, without first trying less restrictive options. Do you feel exploited? The intake worker asked. I feel tugged, I said. I'm recording the tugs. We opened a record. She gave a case number that looked like a long subtraction problem. Doreen read it back and tucked it into her folder. We faxed the notice of rights assertion to the state survey agency. The confirmation joined Exhibit I because some doors still prefer 1997. Mid-morning, Ms. Patel met me in the family room. Plant, lamp, too much clock. We reviewed 90 days of transactions, circled a duplicate online pharmacy charge and an inflated convenience fee. She would reverse both and add alerts. Then, someone called last week asking if a J. Whitford could be added as joint owner. Blocked ID. Teller required you in the chair. They hung up. She wrote a witness statement for Exhibit F. By the elevator, the mail carrier handed me a green card. Risk signed. Proof is patient, I said. Proof is patient, he echoed. At 3, care conference, me, supporters, Karina, nurse manager, hospitalist, Doreen, and Michael. Agenda, emailed beforehand, memorialize SDM. Confirm no guardianship referral, set policy for phone/keys and for any capacity concern, agree on discharge criteria. We recorded, phone/keys retained, temporary hold only for documented immediate risk, all requests logged. SDM in chart, care calendar listing roles, staff may consult supporters, decisions remain mine. Guardianship referral only if less restrictive alternatives attempted and failed. Notice to me and counsel. Ombudsman invited to any such meeting. Discharge criteria, numeric functional goals, med reconciliation with my participation, home walkthrough with supporters, follow-up scheduled before paper leaves. All agreed. Jenna asked, what if she refuses care? We document offer, understanding, and choice, Michael said. And if she's confused? We identify about what, Doreen said, and respond to that. We do not remove global rights for a local bad day. Discharge set for Friday, contingent on therapy progress and home walkthrough. I requested the written policy on personal property/communication devices. The nurse manager added it to Exhibit I. Afterward, my son lingered. I didn't mean to take anything, he said. Help me keep the edges of what's mine, I said. He nodded, a little like a man given a tool he'd misused and pleased to learn it has a proper name. Next morning, Michael drafted a one-page memo. No guardianship referral absent clear and convincing evidence of incapacity. Less restrictive alternatives, including SDM, documented as attempted and insufficient. The administrator signed. Plain saves time, Michael said. By noon, 2 certified receipts returned. The third read attempted notice left. The survey agency confirmed receipt, logged and assigned. I preferred surprise and cakes. The clerk laughed before she remembered professionalism and laughed again anyway. Doreen helped collect Exhibit F statements, pharmacist and Ms. Patel. We added the hospitalist's note documenting our med discussion, my PT progress, and the care calendar printout to Exhibit I. Afternoon, table mediation, not court. Chairs and Mercy administrator, nurse manager, Karina, Doreen, Michael. My daughter, neighbor, and me. Michael outlined the standard. Doreen traced the grievance path. I read a paragraph. I am asking for ordinary adulthood. I accept help I choose and document. I will not accept help that erases me. The building is safer when you don't have to guess which I mean. The administrator promised admissions training on SDM and to correct the unheaded forms. Karina would replace the rights poster with readable copies. The nurse manager scheduled a staff in-service titled Least Restrictive First, which sounded like a sensible religion. We closed with a one-page summary. Doreen dated it. Michael signed. I signed. Copies to all and to my ledger. The veteran passed the room and saluted the page, or maybe the posture. That night I slept like a place that has learned my shape. I dreamed of jars with labels that stayed where I placed them. In the morning, I felt keys under the pillow and my phone on the nightstand, weights that anchor the part of the world where my name fits me. Thursday, home walkthrough with my daughter, neighbor, and a facility therapist. Rugs checked, cords tamed, generator cable rerouted, SDM posted near the corkboard. On my own floorboards, I passed the steps test. Friday discharge remains excellent, the therapist said. Back at the facility, Elena brought copies, policies, and my full intake packet with the blanks blank. Yellow tabs replaced earlier arrows. We're updating the binder, she said. Doreen yelled with her eyebrows. Competent eyebrows, I said. Elena smiled like a future administrator. Before dinner, the administrator delivered a staff memo. Residents keep phones/keys unless documented immediate risk, SDM, or other least restrictive supports must be tried before any guardianship referral. Ombudsman is a partner. We both said thank you, and both sentences were true because the paper between us wasn't pretending to be candy. I closed the day in the ledger, logging exhibits I in footnote J joy, because the veterans team won and the kitchen's chili tasted like chili. Joy doesn't cancel struggle, I wrote. It rounds a corner where breath returns. At 8 my son called, voice in a slower gear. I underlined consult, not decide, and notice, basis, participation, he said. I didn't know language could do that. It can when it has a job, I said. I don't want to be the reason you needed all this. You're the reason I practiced, I said. Practice is love that plans. Coffee without lid taste tomorrow, he said. Evidence-based intervention, I said. I rehearsed Friday, meds reconciled by voice, discharge orders that say something real, follow-ups scheduled, hands I chose, a home that recognizes my keys. If anyone offers temporary guardianship as courtesy, I will ask which less restrictive alternatives they tried. Not defiance, etiquette for adults. The machine that once imagined me into silence now idled like a good hinge after oil. Function, not apology. I placed the keys under the pillow one last time, custody I could feel, and fell asleep counting the small receipts of the day, each a bead with a date, a time, and a name that can stand in the light if called. Mid-morning, I asked for the written cell phone policy. Elena brought a binder and a shrug. We hunted the index together until she laughed. It's in 3 places. One page said phones were discouraged at night, another said secured at the nurse's station when safety indicated, a third said resident preference respected unless immediate risk. I underlined the last sentence. Let's post that, I said. She made a copy and taped it inside my closet door where policies can be useful, not ceremonial. A neighbor from home, Mrs. Lopez, visited with a bag of oranges and a voice that never learned to whisper. They called me, she said, asking if you had someone to take over the hard parts. I told them you do, Agnes. She wrote a short statement for Exhibit F, listing date, time, and the number that called. I keep a little notebook for scams, she said. This one smelled like clean laundry that isn't yours. I phoned my primary care office and requested copies of the full documentation and medication list. The nurse read the list back. We corrected a dosage the hospitalist had already adjusted. She added a note, patient participates in med reconciliation by phone, SDM on file. I printed the portal screenshot for Exhibit E and wrote beside it, participation is a verb, not a courtesy. Waiting for the elevator, I met the mail carrier again, this time without his stamp. Ever miss? I asked. Rarely, he said. But when we do, it's because someone pretended a door wasn't a door. He showed me how to track certified mail online. We wrote the numbers on a sticky note and taped it inside my ledger. Nothing disappears, he said. It just hides between clicks. The therapy gym smelled like citrus cleaner and effort. On the parallel bars, I met a woman named Joyce practicing a step she called church stairs. The third one is mean, she said. We negotiated the third step like diplomats. Her niece wanted to get papers on her to help with bills. What papers? I asked. The niece didn't know, she said. Just papers. We made a bargain. I'd share SDM. She'd share her secret for smuggling coffee that didn't taste like a lid. She wrote her name and number so Doreen could call if she wanted a rights chat that wasn't a lecture. Michael sent a template email for staff. If any staff believes capacity is impaired, document specific facts. About what? Notify the resident and offer less restrictive support first, e.g., SDM consult, call to supporters. Communication aids. Do not remove devices/keys absent immediate documented risk. Log any temporary hold with reason/time/return. Karina forwarded it unit-wide. The administrator asked to walk the admissions script with Doreen and me. We sat with Elena at the front desk. Doreen circled phrases that drifted toward possession. We keep your phone. We hold your keys. We decide. Elena rewrote them in 10 minutes. You may choose to store your phone at the station. You keep your keys. Staff can help if you want. We offer options. You choose. I watched language pull its shoulders back to fit humanity. On the way back, I passed a sign that said, "Quiet, please," and a TV blaring daytime drama inventing neighbors. A CNA turned it down and mouthed, "Sorry." I mouthed, "Thank you." We performed the small economy that saves everyone from paperwork later. In the afternoon, I called the insurer to verify that no representative payee, or authorized representative, had been added without my say-so. The agent confirmed none. I added a voice password and requested mailed confirmation. "Anything else today?" the agent asked. "Please note SDM," I said. "It stands between courtesy and theft." The hospitalist returned with the morning's charts. We discussed fall risk honestly. I agreed to a night light and to ring before walking at 2 a.m. A time when pride likes to wander. He agreed that alarms are not dignity and that staff can use judgment instead of automatic beeps. We both signed the plan. It read like adults speaking to adults. Jenna texted my daughter, "Can we be on the care calendar too?" My daughter asked me. "Yes," I said. Support is not a zero-sum ledger. We added Jenna to appointments she enjoys, insurance apps, and left her off the ones that ignite her, my checkbook. She said thank you twice, as if access felt different when it was permission, not conquest. At dinner, the veteran set his radio to music and tapped the plastic table like a drum modest about its talent. "You know," he said, "I signed things in 72 because an officer said it would be quick." "What happened?" I asked. "Quick took 10 years, he said. We sat with that sentence until it put its shoes on. By evening, the survey agency left a voicemail. "We have logged your concern and will review." No promises, no grand pronouncements, just a file with a number and a breath. I wrote the time and the agent's initials in Exhibit I and resisted the urge to send them brownies. Karina came by with a copy of the revised resident rights poster in 14-point font. We taped it at eye level near the elevator. An aide read it and said, I didn't know we had to give written responses to grievances." "It's in step 3, Karina said. The aide nodded like someone handed a tool that fits her hand. My neighbor, listed as a supporter, practiced saying, "I'm here to consult, not decide," because she wanted to get the line right if anyone asked her to be bossy. She brought mail from home, a charity appeal that assumed I was a wallet with a rocking chair, and a note from Mrs. Lopez. I wrote down the number that called me, she scribbled. "They won't like my handwriting." We put both in the ledger, one as comic relief, one as witness. On Thursday afternoon, the administrator invited Michael and Doreen to peek at a staff huddle. A nurse asked whether temporary guardianship for consent to flu shot made sense. "Consent is not a jurisdiction to seize by convenience," Doreen said gently. "Offer SDM, explain the shot, document the choice." The nurse nodded, toggling from habit to practice. I requested a copy of the facility's change in condition protocol. The nurse manager printed it. We added a sentence by consensus. Call the resident's supporters if the resident wants them present for decisions. It was a small seam stitched where drafts used to blow through. The night before discharge, my daughter and I rehearsed the what-if script on the care calendar. What if dizziness returns? Call primary, hydrate, check meds, neighbor drives if needed. What if the hospital calls my daughter first? She says, consult, not decide, loop mom in now. We wrote the sentences on an index card in thick marker for the kitchen corkboard. Before sleep, I copied all tracking numbers into Exhibit G, then took a photo of the page and texted it to Michael. He replied with a thumbs up and a line that made me laugh. Evidence is the love language of systems. Friday dawned with a discharge checklist that looked like a grocery list for adulthood. The hospitalist reviewed meds with me on speaker while the pharmacist listened in. We corrected a timing error. The pharmacist read back the final list. "I'll bag them in the order you take them," she said. "You'll get a printed schedule and a QR code." Michael asked the nurse to add "resident participated by phone" to the reconciliation note. Ms. Patel called once more. "We got another blocked ID call asking if family could pick up a cashier's check," she said. We refused. "Please note, bank will call you and your attorney before issuing any instrument over $500. She emailed a statement for Exhibit F, then added, "My teller wants to know your ledger brand." I told her. "We'll start carrying them," she said, "for customers who prefer ink to fog." In the lobby, the mail carrier waved the last green card like a small flag. "Administrator signed," he said. "Your trio is complete." I taped the 3 cards in a row inside Exhibit G. "They look like stoplights," I said. "Or permissions," he answered. "Depends who's driving." Friday morning arrived with the quiet of a room that had learned my outline. I woke to the steady wheeze of the concentrator next door, the housekeeping cart's soft apology rolling down the hall, and a ray of desert light locating the green ledger on my table like a faithful dog. "Discharge day," I wrote at the top of a fresh page. Beneath it, coffee, meds, phone still mine, keys still mine, voice still mine. Karina knocked and let the door finish announcing her. "Walk me through your plan," she said, taking the chair that catches the morning. She had a folder with tabs and the posture of someone who wanted to leave the room better than she found it. "Plan is nouns first, verbs second," I said. "Phone. Keys. Paper. Then call. Drive. Home." She smiled despite the hour. "I've updated your care calendar with the hospitalist follow-up on Tuesday," she said. "PT on Wednesday at the outpatient clinic. Supporters listed with roles. Post it where people actually use it," I said. "Fridge door, not the drawer where loyalty goes to nap." "Done," she said. "And the ombudsman asked me to deliver this." She handed me a single-page stamped received. It was a copy of the facility's memo, least restrictive first, SDM documented, no removal of devices absent immediate documented risk. It was the shape of caution corrected into practice. We reviewed the discharge checklist, medication reconciliation, with me on speaker, prescriptions to my chosen pharmacy, a printed schedule that read like a poem for the precise. The hospitalist joined by phone and went line by line, morning pill, breakfast, noon pill, bedtime, and waited for me to repeat each change the way you repeat a street name before turning. "Questions?" he asked. "One," I said. "Who do you call if I call and you're not here?" "My cell," he said, unembarrassed. "And your SDM supporters if you want them looped in." "Thank you for being a knob and not a sliding wall," I said. He laughed, then gave me his office number anyway because he is a man who knows that adults need paper and a backup for paper. Elena arrived with the intake packet with the blanks blank and a second bundle, a corrected admission script. The old phrases, "we keep your phone," "we hold your keys," had been rewritten in plain grammar that treated adults like adults. "We're using this starting Monday," she said. Doreen reviewed the changes. She corrected my commas. "Her commas do public service," I said. Elena pointed to a yellow tab halfway down the script. "See here? You may store your phone at the station if you choose. Staff can assist charging in room on request." She tapped another line. "Copies of any signed forms available on the spot. If a copier breaks, we photograph and email until paper arrives wearing shoes." "Language learns," I said. "So do buildings." Michael arrived in a tie that agreed with the day. He placed a thin folder on the table, a one-page memo the administrator had signed yesterday, copies of the care conference summary, and a draft letter to the court that he hoped never to mail. "Insurance called me this morning," he said, "to confirm they have you and your SDM on file. Bank's note is in Exhibit F. The survey agency logged your fax, and our copy is an I. APS says they'll call early next week about the case status." When the phone rings, I said, "I will answer it like a citizen." The door knocked again. It was the veteran with the radio hidden in plain sight. "Heard you're rolling out," he said, resting his hand on the door jamb like a man taking a measure. "They returned your keys." "They never left," I said, patting the pillow I no longer needed to use as a safe. He looked pleased in a way that has nothing to do with winning and everything to do with not losing yourself. Good, he said. Hate to see a hinge learn the wrong lesson. By 10, my daughter and neighbor arrived with shoes for walking and faces that looked like a map after you've drawn the route. We did one last loop of the hall. Any last questions? Karina asked. I had one about the nightlight, one about the medication list printing too lightly, and one about who says hello to Joyce in the therapy gym now that I will not. I'll send an aide with coffee that doesn't taste like lids, Karina said. Tell her you made me promise. I will, I said. She will believe me. At 11, paperwork performed its final circus. Signatures, dates, copies that actually copied. The administrator stopped in with a short speech that did not pretend to be a ribbon. Thank you for making us better, she said. We changed 3 scripts, 2 posters, and 1 habit. Habits are the big ones, I said. They pretend to be furniture. She held out her hand the way some people hold out a future. If anyone suggests guardianship for consent or convenience, we will start with one question. What less restrictive alternative have we tried? It's an etiquette question, I said. Adults use it when they mean to stay adults. We were halfway down the hall when Elena called my name. She was holding an envelope that looked like a letter trying to behave. This came to the front desk, she said. Addressed to you. It's marked from the Superior Court. Michael reached for it with the speed of a man whose job is to reach. The return address looked official in the way brown envelopes know how to look. He opened it with his tie pin because paper should never meet teeth. Inside, a notice of filing. Someone had filed a petition for temporary guardianship, ex parte. Hearing set for Monday at 8:30 a.m., subject to confirmation. Attached, a list of deficiencies in small type that read like an apology in legal. No clinician letter. No notice to the resident. No statement of less restrictive alternatives attempted. A box checked safety. A sentence that said phone and keys confiscated for patient's own good, which was the wrong tense and the wrong universe. Jenna's name was not on the petition. My son's was, and then scratched out, and then on again in a pen that didn't match the printer. My daughter's name appeared once in a line that began other interested parties, as if the love that sits next to you in rooms is an interest you declare for tax. I felt the hinge inside my chest tighten and then release. Well, I said. The river found another bank. Michael took a photo, sent a text, and made 3 calls before my heart finished its next beat. To the clerk, note of appearance, request for immediate review of deficiencies, and a statement that SDM was in force. To the administrator, request for a short letter attesting there had been no documented capacity finding, no device confiscation, and no immediate risk. To Doreen, request for an ombudsman statement confirming yesterday's agreements. He ended with the court email address, typed from memory. Will there be a hearing? My neighbor asked. Maybe, Michael said. Maybe not. They scheduled subject to confirmation. They will likely require notice, basis, and participation, and they will look for less restrictive steps tried and failed. What do you need from me? I asked. 2 things, he said. A short declaration in your own words. And your ordinary day. We sat in the family room that tries to be a living room and wrote the declaration. I am Agnes Whitford, I began, and then continued with facts that did not need adjectives. I wrote that I had executed a supported decision-making agreement, that I retained my phone and keys, that I had participated in medication reconciliation and therapy, that I had requested and received grievance policies and used the grievance process, that the facility had agreed to policies that made guardianship unnecessary and, in this case, improper. I wrote that adults were allowed to be adults and that the building had learned to respect that. I signed and dated. Michael notarized. My daughter and neighbor signed as supporters, not as rulers. Doreen added a sentence in her own calm ink. Resident has exercised rights. SDM is in place. Less restrictive measures have been offered and are working. The administrator arrived with a letter stating the obvious in fonts that looked like consequence. No confiscation, no emergency, no capacity finding, no referral by the facility, SDM in chart, discharge today with goals met. She attached the care conference summary, the staff memo, and a copy of the corrected admission script. We fixed what we could fix, she said. The rest is for the building across town. The one with a bench, I said. And a clerk with a stamp, she said. Michael assembled a packet as if building a small bridge. Exhibit A, ID and insurance. B, intake with the blanks blank. C, phone and meeting log. D, bank protections and alerts. E, medical notes and PT progress. F, witness statements, pharmacist, Ms. Patel, Mrs. Lopez, mail carrier. G, certified mail receipts, 3 green cards in a row. H, photos of posters and the admissions script edits. I, notice of rights assertion, memo, care conference summary, and now the facility letter. On top of the stack, he placed my 1-page declaration. Clear and convincing is a standard for evidence, he said. We're not there because there's no claim. But we are clear and we are convincing. You sound like a man who likes sentences that close their own doors, I said. That's how you keep weather out, he said. He emailed the packet to the clerk and to the judge's division address, then called the clerk again and asked whether the notice of filing could be reviewed for deficiency before anyone wasted a Monday. We review ex parte petitions for immediate risk, the clerk said, voice all professional and 3% merciful. I see a petition without a clinician affidavit, without notice, without less restrictive alternatives attempted, and a facility letter contradicting the confiscated claim. I'm going to flag this. Thank you, Michael said. He did not say we both live in a state that pretends paper matters. He let the clerk say it in her way. We left the building at noon. The veteran saluted, and I returned it with my hand steady as accounting. Outside, the sunlight did the red math across cars and asphalt and the square of sky you can own by looking up. My daughter drove. My neighbor navigated as if Phoenix had only just learned to be a grid. I held the ledger closed in my lap with a palm that had no tremor in it, because some days you are the whole hinge, and hinges behave when someone is willing to oil them. At home, the door recognized my key on the first turn because doors like to show off when people try to write other scripts on them. We did the tour that makes a house pass an exam, mat flat, cords tamed, night light plugged in, generator cable routed like a sentence that respects commas. I taped the care calendar to the fridge, the SDM to the corkboard, and the bank's password phrase to the inside of my desk drawer where thieves are too bored to look. The cat circled my ankles, pretending to scold me for days I owed her. You kept the house, I told her. She blinked like a manager signing off on a task completed. The phone rang at 1:42 p.m. The number said Superior Court, clerk. Ma'am, she said, the petition scheduled for Monday has been reviewed. The court will not proceed ex parte. The petition is deficient for lack of notice, lack of basis, and lack of less restrictive alternatives attempted. If the petitioner wishes to proceed, they must serve and set in the ordinary course. A minute entry will follow by email. Thank you, I said, speaking slowly so my words would make a clean copy in the air. May I confirm your name? I wrote it. And your time? I wrote that too. After we ended the call, I set down the pen and listened to the house remember I was in it. The refrigerator hummed. The clock exaggerated. A bird made the ordinary decision to leave the hedge for the wire and succeeded. Jenna texted my daughter a minute later. We're withdrawing. I'm sorry. The message contained no punctuation, which is the syntax of shame. My son called and stayed on the line long enough to tell the truth. I panicked, he said. A coworker said his aunt got guardianship, and it solved everything. I thought it was like a cooling towel for decision-making. Cooling towels are for foreheads, I said. Guardianship is a coat you can't take off just because air conditioning showed up. I'm sorry, he said. I saw ex parte and thought it meant expedite. It means without the other side, I said. That's how furniture moves itself. I'll own it, he said. What do you want me to do now? 2 things, I said. Read the memo the administrator signed. Then take me to the bank so Ms. Patel can laugh at how serious we look. I can do that, he said. Also, I'll bring coffee that doesn't taste like lids. That is corrective action, I said. We went to the bank at 3. Ms. Patel had the kind of face that rewards people who arrive as themselves. She printed the customer instruction notice showing our flags, no new POA accepted without in-person verification, attorney copied on large instruments, password phrase required. You've become our favorite training scenario, she said. Today a teller asked why a phrase and not a word. I told her the mouth knows what the mind wants to forget. She handed me a new debit card because mine had a corner nicked by an old grocery cart. Fresh plastic, she said. Old rights. My son read the notice like a catechism and asked to add his role. Supporter for insurance calls only, consult not decide. Ms. Patel typed, then read it back in full. He signed the signature pad the way a person writes their name when the name is not trying to eat anyone else's. We stopped at the pharmacy next. The pharmacist, the one with the stubborn soul, had placed my medications in simple bubble packs labeled with times because she read the world and decided it could be Kinder. We blocked vendor transfer requests on your profile, she said. If anyone tries to move you, the computer goes loud. She showed me the screen. Also, we added a note. Patient participates by phone. Do not assume silence means consent. My favorite sentence today, I said. It used to be no substitutions, she said. Now it's this. We laughed until the man in line behind me smiled even though he did not know the joke, because some laughter is a public good. At home the ledger lived open on the table. I wrote the clerk's name and the phrase, will not proceed ex parte, the administrator's letter, Doreen's attachment, my declaration, and the words Jenna chose when faced with the mirror. I printed the minute entry when it arrived by email. It was short in the way a bridge can be short and still carry a great weight. Petition for temporary guardianship denied without prejudice for deficiencies, lack of notice to respondent, lack of clinician affidavit, failure to demonstrate clear and convincing evidence of incapacity, failure to demonstrate that less restrictive alternatives have been tried and found insufficient. Parties are directed to utilize supported decision-making or other less restrictive supports as appropriate. Any future filing shall attach documentation of alternatives attempted. I copied the text into my ledger and then printed a version that did not include names or numbers, because sometimes you want to frame the principle, not the particulars. I taped that version inside the pantry door where 100 little orders live: flour here, sugar in a sealed jar, spices in small glass bottles with labels that forgive sloppy handwriting. It is ordered that guardianship shall not be imposed absent clear and convincing evidence of incapacity, and that less restrictive alternatives, including supported decision-making, shall be attempted and documented before any petition is considered. The respondent retains personal phone, keys, and decision-making authority. Any evaluation of capacity shall be conducted with notice, basis, and participation of the respondent and counsel. The ombudsman is invited to any meeting at which guardianship or capacity is discussed. We ate dinner at my table, my daughter, my son, my neighbor, and me, like a crew that had learned to row in the same direction without voting on the river. My son told the story of how the petition had seemed like a kindness until words began to have consequences. My daughter passed bread that tasted like a decision. My neighbor said grace in her way, for the hinges that learned the right lesson. We clinked water glasses because water is the beverage you choose when you respect your future. After dishes, my son asked if he could fix the porch light. He is the kind of man who apologizes with tools. He checked the switch, the bulb, the little wire that pretends to be brave and then gets tired. You could use a motion sensor, he said. Or, he added, you could keep a switch you control with your own hand. Switch, I said. I like to move a thing and see the light. He replaced the bulb and left the rest of it alone. It lit at the first try and did not try to improve upon itself. Saturday morning brought the cat to my face with an agenda that involved breakfast and the exact placement of sunlight on the rug. I made coffee that did not taste like lids and called Joyce. Third step still mean? I asked. Less mean if you swear at it in church Spanish, she said. I told her about SDM in a sentence that respected her pride. That's the one where I pick people to think with, she said. Not for. She liked the phrase. We could use that at bingo, she said. We'll put it between no house rules and no cheating with 5 cards. Put it on a poster, I said. 14-point font. The APS worker called mid-morning, voice as careful as before. I'm calling to close the case, she said. We reviewed the information from you, the facility, and the ombudsman. No ongoing risk identified. Least restrictive alternative in place and functioning. We'll note the facility changes for our training file. Thank you, I said. Please record that I requested closure with thanks. Recorded, she said. And thanks back. In the afternoon, my daughter drove me to the outpatient PT clinic. The therapist who had predicted Fridays smiled when I walked in without the walker and handed me an exercise band the color of common sense. We practiced the church stairs in the corner where the mirror forgives. The third step, she asked. Less mean, I said. It responds to correct nouns. She laughed and then spotted my balance the way nurses catch dignities before they hit the floor. She added 2 new exercises, heel to toe and a turn that reminds the brain the body is an address you still live at. We stopped at the hardware store on the way home so I could buy a small lamp for the night light that plugs into dignity rather than fear. The clerk, 20, pierced, kind, listened to my criteria like a carpenter of emotions. Easy switch, he said, and a bulb that minds its business. He wrapped it in paper like it was a plan. The week wore on in ordinary squares, which is the rhythm justice hopes for when it has done its job without needing a parade. MS. Patel called to confirm the reversal of the duplicate pharmacy charge and the convenience fee. The survey agency emailed that my concern had been reviewed and filed for reference, which sounds like nothing until you need it. The facility sent a photograph of the new poster at eye level, and Elena wrote a 1-sentence email that should be engraved above doors. We offer options. You choose. Doreen left a voicemail, half a chuckle, half a benediction. Tell the veteran the radio can stay in plain sight. On Thursday, my son came by with a bag of oranges from Mrs. Lopez and a note folded twice. Please forgive sloppy handwriting. People who call me for you will learn my neat hand. He handed me the bag and stood in the kitchen in the way men stand when they are unlearning and the floor is honest under their shoes. I told Jenna we filed without understanding, he said. We didn't mean harm, but we meant control. Those aren't cousins. They go to different schools, I said. One learns how to hold a flashlight, one learns how to turn the power off and call it rescue. We'd like to earn our way onto your care calendar, he said. We'll start with the appointments you hate. Insurance apps and waiting on hold, I said. Bring coffee. Without lids, he promised. I printed 1 more page for the ledger, a summary that made sense to the part of me that organizes pantries and funerals with equal fairness. Act I, intake and refusal to disappear. Act 2, documentation, agreements, training the building to speak adult. Act 3, discharge, attempted shortcut to guardianship denied, home, hinges, closure. I wrote the word closure and did not mean the sort people use to pretend they do not remember. I meant the letter from APS, the minute entry, the poster at eye level, the bank notice, the way the porch light says yes when I ask. That night, at my table, I took the simplified minute entry off the pantry door and read it once more, not because I doubted it and not because I wanted to frame it. Because words matter when you say them calmly on an ordinary day and notice they still hold. I put it back and smoothed the tape with my thumb like you do for recipes and truths. It would be nice to tell you the story ended with consensus, that my son and Jenna became the kind of people who never confuse convenience for care. Adults are not tidy. We will make more documents. We will argue about whether a generator is optimism or anxiety with a cord. We will revise the care calendar when my feet prefer a different day for courage. But we will do it in the light, with the question that changes rooms. What less restrictive alternative have we tried? On that question, you can build a home that keeps its doors and a country that keeps its promises. I put the ledger on the shelf. The cat inspected the new night light and approved with a whisker. I opened the door and stood on the porch in the square of light we had fixed with a bulb and a refusal to make things complicated when they could be honest. The air had cooled to a number that doesn't brag. Somewhere a radio played a game for people who had learned to keep a thing playing without hiding it. I locked the door and unlocked it twice. Not superstition, not drama, just practice for the hinge. Then I went to bed with my phone on the nightstand and my keys on the dresser, easy to see, easier to trust, ordinary as breath when no one else is counting it for you.